Hi everyone, welcome to our LEED Green Associate study session. This is going to be a lot of fun today because we're going to take you through not just some of the updates with LEED version 4, but more specifically, how do you pass this LEED professional credential exam? You're here because you want to advance your career. Maybe you want to work on more LEED projects. Maybe your firm requires you to pass some of the new LEED exams. Well, you're in good hands. Our company, Green Building Education Services, we've been around since 2007. We were actually the first company to make LEED practice tests. We've helped over 100,000 professionals prepare for and pass the LEED exams. So let's have some fun and get into our study session. We're going to be a little under 1 hour today. Let me introduce myself. My name is Charlie Cichetti. I'm the CEO here at Green Building Education Services. I've been fortunate to make a career out of the green building movement. My background is commercial construction when I got out of school at Georgia Tech. And then I worked for a large real estate company that was an early adopter of LEED. That's where I got my early LEED experience. After that, I got into LEED consulting and engineering and education. And we've really grown in part because we help people in this green building movement advance their career, make their companies more competitive, and just understand all of the changes out there with LEED and even now well. I have taken and passed all of the LEED exams. Call me crazy, but as an educator and as a LEED consultant, it's important that I've gone out and passed all of these credential exams. Here at GBES, we're a USGBC education partner. So we are a top-tier education company. All of our continuing education, for example, is approved for LEED hours, AIA hours, and we have to have best-in-class education products to maintain those standards. So again, my name is Charlie. I've taken and passed the LEED Green Associate as well as the other LEED exams, and I'm going to be your instructor today. Our agenda for this just under an hour study session is I've got to give you a LEED overview. I understand some of you have worked on LEED projects and maybe you're like, you know what, it's finally time. Let me go take that tricky LEED exam and get the letters after my name. Great, I'm going to speak to you and you've got a little head start because you know some of the LEED terminology. Others, you might be brand new to green buildings, brand new to LEED. That's fine, we've got you covered. We're going to go over LEED from a high level, how it's organized, what fits into which category, and very specifically, what level of detail do you need to get with your studies as you're preparing for this 100-question multiple choice exam. We're going to talk about the exam, how it's structured, where you take it, even how you sign up. I'm going to give you some test-taking tips for the testing center. We're going to go through each of the LEED knowledge domains, and I'm going to show you some of the terminology you need to memorize and become familiar with as you're going through your LEED studies. This is a little under an hour session, so we can't go through everything. So we're going to show you some other study tools that we're going to recommend. You do have to put aside the right amount of study time to pass this exam. It is a closed book exam. It's not impossible. Again, we've helped a lot of people prepare for and pass the LEED exams. And then at the end, let's go through some LEED Green Associate sample questions on our practice test system together, and I'm going to show you why did they ask the question that way. Where are they going to be tricky on the real exam? So, high level LEED overview. We'll talk about the exam, how it's structured, really how detailed do you need to get with your studies. Some of you learn best by reading. I'll show you some tools there. Some of you learn best by doing lots of practice tests. I'll show you that. Others want the more comprehensive, you know what, let me learn more. Let me do a deeper dive on this. I'm going to show you some other tools there. And again, at the end of our session today, I'm going to give you some more super secret tips on how you pass the test, and we'll go through some sample questions together. So let's start high level. What is LEED? Believe it or not, on your 100-question exam, you might even get the question, what does LEED stand for? Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. Don't miss that question. Now, when you sit down at the testing center, they actually are going to shuffle up the questions and load 100 onto your computer from a larger pool of questions. So you might get that one, you might not. What is LEED? So LEED is a green building rating system. I'm going to talk a little more about the U.S. Green Building Council, when it came out, and how they invented LEED, and they keep it updated. But just understand, when you're taking this exam, you're going to want to pick the answers that make LEED and this process look good, look favorable, right? All of you are about to become a LEED professional and an advocate, hopefully, of this green building rating system. But LEED has won out as the most popular green building rating system, green building stamp of approval in the entire world. It is a U.S.-based program. The U.S. GBC, or the U.S. Green Building Council, well, they're a nonprofit. It might feel like the government, but it's not. They're a nonprofit that was established in 1993. The first LEED projects actually came out in the year 2000. So we have many years now worth of LEED projects. Could you argue in the last 6 to 8 years, has LEED really grown then? Yes. But the first LEED buildings were certified in the year 2000. What do you need to know for your exam? Okay, the US GBC, that's the nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. They invented LEED. They keep it updated. And what does LEED stand for? Now, please understand the evolution of LEED. It started with LEED for new construction. Let's say we're a developer and we're going to build a new building out of the ground. Well, we want to design and build it green, set up the building to have the green infrastructure. But then later we might want to operate as a green building and look at green pest control and recycling. So then later we came out with the operations and maintenance LEED rating system. In between, you might have some tenant spaces that do commercial interiors. So there's been quite the evolution of LEED, but it all started with designing and building that next green building out of the ground to the LEED standards. You're in this study session because LEED is affecting you in your careers, in your business, or maybe you just have a passion for, eco-friendly design and construction operations. I'm not here to sell you on why are we going to go for LEED, but let me just tell you a few things that might show up on your exam or that you need to pitch to your clients. The studies show, now that we've got over 17 years worth of LEED projects in place, that LEED buildings do cost less to operate, and there's an increase in building value. Now let's say you're a Class A office building and you're a LEED building. Well, you do the math on a higher occupancy, a lower cost to run the building. Maybe you even have some other benefits and tax credits and accelerated depreciation, all that. You do the math, and that building is worth more. But in most markets, LEED buildings can actually get a little bit of a rent increase. And it's shown that there's less absenteeism, it's a healthier building for the occupants, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to make sure that companies are going to go for a LEED certification because it is the right thing to do. It protects resources, but it also can be a good business case. We've really seen LEED cost go down quite a bit. Does it cost extra upfront? Yes, but there is a return on that investment. These days, frankly, on a LEED for new construction project, since most energy codes and most local jurisdictions have raised the bar with some sustainability and some benchmarking, you can almost get to LEED Silver based on code minimum. And it's when you want to go for gold or platinum, that's when you've got to really do more on your green building projects. There's another entity that you need to be familiar with as you're getting into LEED and the green building movement, and that's GBCI. It's also a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. They changed their name a couple of years ago, but now we call GBCI Green Business Certification, Inc. So on one hand, you have the US GBC, who invented LEED, keeps it updated. And on the other hand, you have GBCI, who actually certifies our buildings and gives out our LEED exams. So they are the certifying body, okay? The U.S. Green Building Council found it very important that those that write the material don't also certify. And so that's why they broke off two entities somewhat early on. One more time, and you'll need to know this for your exam. The US GBC invented LEED, keeps it updated, but GBCI, they certify our projects when we submit all of that LEED documentation, and they also handle our credentialing. So when you go to register for your LEED Green Associate exam, you're actually going to go through GBCI and register to take the exam. Here's the LEED Green Associate logo. Now, some of you might have some colleagues that have an old LEED AP. Let me go ahead and demystify what that means. In June of 2009, it was pretty hectic for those of us that were in the green building movement. What happened was we pretty much just had one LEED credential, LEED AP, and all of a sudden LEED version 3 at the time was rolling out, major changes, and they came out with this LEED Green Associate Tier 1 exam and a whole bunch of other exams behind it. And there was just a frenzy for people to hurry and take that old LEED AP. Some got in and some didn't. The LEED Green Associate, we've been working on that now since the summer of 2009. It is a professional credential. It really shows industry, it shows your colleagues, it shows your company, it shows your boss. You know what? I understand the latest version of LEED, and I understand the most up-to-date green building principles. The next myth I want to bust for all of you is you are going to take your exam based on LEED version 4. About every 4 or 5 years or so, LEED is going to raise the bar. We just went through an update, and any new project that registers to go for LEED, whether a new building, an interior upfit, or an existing building, you're going to do LEED version 4. So what you're studying right now, and as you take and pass the LEED Green Associate exam, you're going to be up to date LEED version 4. And once you pass, make sure you use this nice green logo, put on your business cards, put on your website, put on that next proposal that you're sending out to get that next project. But again, LEED Green Associates, it's a Tier 1 level professional credential, and you're going to prove that you're up to date on the most current green building principles, at least from a high level. After you pass that exam, you might want to move on and take a LEED AP with specialty exam. Later, you could take another 100-question exam and specialize in BD plus E, building design and construction. Maybe some of you work on new commercial construction out of the ground, or core and shell buildings, or major renovations. Maybe you work on multifamily or single family. You might want to go homes. Maybe you're a property manager or a chief engineer and you run a 50-story building in the middle of Manhattan. You know what? You might want to take the AP O plus M, operations and maintenance. Maybe you're an interior designer. You might want to take ID plus C, interior design and construction. Or maybe you're an urban planner and you want to do INDY, neighborhood development, live, work, play. Look, take and pass the LEED Green Associate. There's only a little over 30,000 LEED Green Associates in the entire world. There's 200,000 total LEED APs, Old Legacy, LEED Green Associates, LEED AP, like I show you on the screen here. That might seem like a large number, but I assure you it's not. If you add up all the people in the world that deal with real estate and buildings, architects and contractors and MEP engineers and civil engineers and developers, property managers, vendors, green pest control companies, manufacturers, 200,000 LEED professionals in the world, this credential is going to set you apart from most out there that have not gone and taken and passed a LEED exam. So again, I want to make sure you all know, start with and pass the LEED Green Associate exam. That's why you're here today. Some of you might want to stop there, be happy with that credential, those letters after your name. But if you find yourself working on more and more LEED and green building projects, maybe later, come back, we'll have another study session on one of these specialty credentials. All right, again, with our study session today, I'm trying to give you some notes on what's changed with LEED version 4, but what do you need to know to pass the LEED Green Associate exam? The US GBES has the following mission. They really want to transform the way that buildings and communities are designed, built, and operated. So you might want to get familiar with their mission statement here. And again, what does LEED stand for? LEED is going strong. I mentioned it is the most popular green building rating system in the world. Interesting statistic, 40% of all the projects going for LEED right now are actually outside the United States. Sure, other countries have their own programs, but what's happened is a lot of multinational companies from the United States have taken LEED overseas to their other offices, their distribution centers, and so forth, and it's really helped LEED grow internationally. The new CEO at the U.S. Green Building Council, Mahesh, he really wants to continue to grow LEED internationally. So I know we've got a lot of international folks on the webinar today too, and we appreciate you being with us. There's actually a little over 2 million square feet of LEED buildings certified every single day. Interesting, a lot of you have already maybe been exposed to some LEED projects, but no one ever comes to your site to see your project, right, on the commercial LEED rating systems. On LEED for homes they do, but we'll talk about that later. LEED for new construction or LEED for existing buildings, we have to go line by line and prove and document and send in that documentation online that we did all of these items. And then we have a back and forth LEED review, and we'll get our official certification and plaque. But there's some fun statistics here about how strong LEED is going right now. Market differentiation. I mentioned the business case. You know, you might have an owner-occupied property, and they're going for LEED because it's in their corporate sustainability mandates. We've got some clients like that. It's very exciting to work with companies like that. Others, maybe you're commercial real estate, and you're doing it for that competitive advantage. You're doing it because you're in, say, Washington, D.C., and a lot of the GSA buildings, the government buildings, of course, they are required to do LEED. But then when the workers go home to their apartments or they're looking to buy a place to live, they're asking about LEED because they just saw it at work. And so depending on what market you're in, there might be a big demand for LEED buildings. But just understand, a recent study showed 61% of corporate leaders really believe sustainability is a differentiator for them. All right, let's talk about LEED and how it's changing the green building industry. I am a big fan, obviously. I've made a career out of it as an entrepreneur and just saw the evolution from construction to real estate to green buildings. And it's been a lot of work, but I've been fortunate to take and pass these LEED exams, to help others take and pass LEED exams and now WELL exams. And it continues to change the green building industry. Let's just use a simple example of low VOC paint. Okay, later we're going to talk about that. Could be a question you get on your LEED Green Associate exam. Low VOC paint 4 or 5 years ago might have been an inferior paint product, and painters on a construction project might be like, you know what, it's more expensive, I don't like it, it doesn't last as long. And okay, well, fast forward to today. No, I mean, low VOC paint is the norm, right? Not just when you're painting a baby nursery at home, zero VOC paint. No, we've really just made that a expectation on our construction projects, on our renovation projects. So LEED has helped drive that change, pushed on the manufacturers to hurry up with more eco-friendly products. So that's just a simple example of how LEED has really changed the way we design, build, and operate our buildings. I'm going to drop some hints throughout this study session. I don't have all the answers to the real exam, but between our practice test, which I'm going to show you later, this study guide, and some other free resources I'm going to give you access to, you're going to see the key material you need to know to pass the LEED Green Associate exam. But one thing I think you might see again, hint, is what makes up the triple bottom line. The U.S. Green Building Council really pushes, it's not just about the financial bottom line, but the triple bottom line. When we're making business decisions on our projects, let's think about people, profit, and planet. So you might get a question on your exam, which of the following make up the triple bottom line? Or which of the following are not part of the triple bottom line? People, profit, planet. All right, let's talk about the exam structure. It is a closed book exam, 100 questions, multiple choice, and there could be a handful of multiple answer questions. Pick 2 of the following, for example. You're going to study on your own. maybe study as a group there at work. You're going to have 2 hours to take the 100-question exam at your local Prometric testing center. Now, most major cities have at least one Prometric testing center. I forgot to mention I'm based here in Atlanta, Georgia, but fortunately I get to travel a good bit for work. And here in Atlanta, for example, there's 3 Prometric testing centers. You can review your questions later, and it's a little tricky, but there are 15 questions that are unscored. I'm going to tell you more about that in a little while. The LEED Green Associate exam is a 100-question multiple choice exam. It's closed book. You're going to have to put in some study time. It's not impossible. It's very vocabulary intensive. You need to know some acronyms. You need to know a couple ASHRAE standards, actually 4 ASHRAE standards we're going to talk about today. You need to know, where does this fit in to LEED? That's honestly one of the first places I want you to start. In a minute, I'm going to show you a LEED scorecard, and I want you to use it as a roadmap. Where does all this fit in? Where does light pollution fit in? Okay, that fits into sustainable sites because we're talking about site lighting and parking lot lighting. Okay, that makes sense. Does it affect energy performance? Yeah, it does. But where does it first belong, first fit? It fits in the sustainable sites category. So 100 questions. You're going to have 2 hours to take this exam at your local Prometric testing center. Here's just a sample question. How could a remote project located away from public transportation reduce its transportation effects? You're going to have enough time on this exam to read the question twice, read all the answers, and then pick the best answer. I know it's always frustrating on a standardized test. Yeah, you got to pick the best answer. Well, this is that kind of exam. It's going to be a little tricky. You'll want to rule 1 or 2 out, process of elimination, and then make your selection. How could a remote project located away from public transportation reduce its transportation effects? Encourage carpooling, stagger work hours, install pervious pavement, or locate a project near a park. Hey, all of those actually sound pretty good, pretty eco-friendly, right? Yeah, that's one of the tricky things about this exam. You need to know, okay, pervious pavement, that fits in somewhere else. We're going to talk about that when we talk about rainwater control, stormwater control. Locate a project near a park. I think that also doesn't fit right here. We're talking about public transportation, getting cars off the road. And the best answer here is A, encourage carpool. So that's just a sample question. All of you are about to become a LEED Green Associate professional. You might actually get 1 question on your 100-question exam about what's on the screen now. What does a LEED Green Associate need to be able to do? Well, you should be able to compose a LEED project team, manage the entire certification process, come up with different approaches for different credits. I'm going to show you in a minute that LEED credits are optional, LEED prerequisites are required, and so you want to make sure you can do some research and mix and match those points. And finally, public outreach for the LEED rating systems. You might get a question, which of the following should a LEED Green Associate be able to do? There's a key document here I want to point out. It's called the LEED Green Associate Candidate Handbook. We've got this as an easy PDF download on our website. So let me pull it up now for you. We're going to take a look at it now and then maybe again a little later in our study session. But make sure you have this document. Now, if you really have to print it out on recycled paper, double-sided, and when you're done with it, hand it to a colleague down the hall when they go to study for their exam. All right, so on the GBES website, gbes.com, you can go to our FAQ and find some free LEED Green Associate resources. We've got some quick download links and a couple things I want you to have access to. This exam is very vocabulary intensive, so we've actually put a download to one of the glossaries from one of the LEED rating systems. You need to know a lot of definitions. Now, you don't need to know the Webster's Dictionary definition, but you need to know your definition. So go through the glossary, try to summarize some of those terms. The LEED Green Associate Handbook is right here, and the LEED BD+C checklist or LEED scorecard Here's a download link for that. So these are the two documents I want you to go ahead and get access to. Let's go ahead and download that and take a look together. So the LEED Green Associate Candidate Handbook. This document actually is going to show you how to register for the exam. It's pretty easy. You're going to go to the usgbc.org website. You're going to create an account, unless you already have one. Maybe you've worked on a LEED project, so you can use your LEED online login. You're going to want to make sure that if your company is a USGBC member company, that you get that discount, that you're connected to your company there. You get a discount on the fees. You're going to then go to the Prometric Testing Center website and pick the day and time that you want to take the exam. This document also, though, it talks about not just registering for the exam. Let me clear up another myth. Some of you might have heard, do I have to have worked on a LEED project to take this exam or any of the LEED exams? The answer today is no. They've done away with that requirement. Instead, the good folks at GBCI, the Green Business Certification Inc., remember they handle our project certifications and they also handle our credential exams. Instead, they've put project example questions on the exam. You used to have worked on a project or taken a green building course to take this test. Here's a link to the exam fees. Just understand, if you're a student, there's a discount on the fees. If you're a veteran, thank you for serving our country, you can actually get reimbursed by the VA for taking this exam and advancing your career. So there's some information about that. This is important, though, and I want to zoom in a little bit more and talk about how this exam, this 100-question multiple choice exam, is structured. They're going to give you 3 types of questions. The first one is called recall. Those are the really quick, factual material, kind of vocabulary or what number do we need to hit kind of questions. You're going to get some application questions. That's more of a scenario. And then you might even get some analysis, which is more of like a problem-solving question. Now, on the LEED Green Associate exam, you're not going to have extensive calculations. Actually, you probably won't get many calculations at all. Even though there's an on-screen calculator, you're probably not going to need it. Focus on where does this fit into LEED, what's the greenest answer, and lots of acronyms and terms and definitions. That will allow you to do well on this test, this Tier 1 exam. But here are the 3 types of questions you're going to get. Let's talk a little bit about the testing center. At the Prometric Testing Center, I mentioned you're going to have 2 hours to take the exam, but right when you sit down, you actually get 10 minutes to learn how to use their computer. That should take you about 30 seconds because there's 3 buttons: back, next, or mark a question to come back to it later. So one of my next pieces of advice, and I've helped a lot of people pass the LEED exams, is take that first 10 minutes to take some deep breaths. It's not that bad. You got this. They're going to give you a scratch paper and a pencil or a dry erase sheet and a dry erase marker. Take that 10 minutes and do a brain dump. It's a closed book exam, but you walked in with information in your head you might think you're going to forget. Jot down some things. ASHRAE 90.1 is energy code. ASHRAE 62.1 is the ventilation standard. Green seal is what sets the chemical limits for paint. You know what? Jot some things down. It's going to boost your confidence. Some of you might want to just start the test. Let me get it over with. That's fine. Others, take those deep breaths, jot down some things, hit start, and then you'll have 2 hours to take the exam. You might not look at that information you wrote down, but just know you jotted down some things that you can reference later in the exam. That's fine, and that's fair game. They have been translating the exam into some other languages. Actually, here at GBES, we're proud to not just have English practice tests, but we have Spanish and German, and we're currently working on French and Chinese. But currently, we've got English, Spanish, and German LEED Green Associate practice tests. If that helps any of you, you can reach out to our customer care at gbes.com team, and we'll make sure you get access to those translated products. A little more about the testing center, and then we're going to get back into the material. At the testing center, they take it very seriously with security. Prometric does a great job. They give out all the LEED exams. Now, you get to pick the day and time you want to take the real exam, okay? So schedule ahead. Please don't take the exam at the end of a busy workday, even if you read the entire reference guide. You had a long day at work, you're not going to do as well as if you take the exam morning or mid-morning. You can take the exam typically Monday through Saturday, depending on your local Prometric testing center. I go by Charlie, but my driver's license says Charles Cichetti. So when I go to take LEED exams, I need to make sure I register with the full name that's on my driver's license or passport, whatever you're going to use for ID. So don't make that mistake. Use your formal name that's going to be on your ID. You get checked in at the Prometric Testing Center. Get there a little early. They're going to give you a locker to lock up all your belongings. They'll give you the key. And again, you have to go into this exam. You can't take anything in, no calculators, no paper. They'll security wand you down. You'll sign in, load the questions, and have 2 hours to take your exam. You can leave the room during the exam, say to go use the restroom, but you have to sign out, go, come back, sign in, and keep going with your exam, but your clock has been turning that whole time. So you'll probably just want to really manage your time there. You do get your score right there at the end of the exam. There's 100 questions, but there's 200 total points. You need a 170 or higher to pass. Literally at the end of your exam, you'll hit End Test, and that's going to submit your questions. You'll get a score within 10 or 20 seconds. There's a little hourglass that's going to turn. Depending on how slow your computer is, it might take an extra few seconds and you're kind of freaking out. But boom, there's your score. We want you to pass the first time. Hopefully you've put in the right amount of study time and passed, but you need a 170 or higher to pass. When you leave the testing center, they actually will notarize how you did in each of the categories. Here's your score as you leave. It'll show up in the LEED professional credential directory within 48 or 72 hours. And then you can actually go back online and order your bamboo fiber certificate. No kidding, but you got to go back to usgbc.org and you can order that. So I've been doing this a long time, and you need about an 85% to pass this test. You need a 170 or higher. I mentioned that they throw out some questions. It is a little tricky, but there are 15 questions that are unscored. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. We'll talk a little more about that. Out of 100 questions, 15 questions are what we call beta questions. The GBCI is testing out some questions they might put in a future version of the exam. You're not going to know if you're on a beta question or not. So my next big piece of advice to pass this test and advance your career is treat each question pretty equally. There's 100 questions. You're going to want to keep a good pace as you're going through. You're not going to be able to figure out which one's a beta question or not. Try to answer every question as you're going through the real exam. If you're stumped on one, process of elimination, guess at it, put down an answer, then mark it on your computer. You have back, next, or mark a question to come back to it later. Guess at it, mark it. Try not to mark more than, say, 20% of the questions out of 100. Go all the way through the exam. At the end of the exam, no matter what, you're not allowed, I don't want you to, go back and look at all the questions again. That's one of the options. Don't do it. You'll talk yourself out of some right answers. Instead, go back and look at the ones you marked. And still, this is definitely the kind of exam, stick with your gut. Your subconscious knew to put that answer down. Only change your answers if you have a good reason to do so. You've got this. All right, so out of your 100 questions, 15 are unscored beta questions. They're going to throw those out. Keep a good pace, answer every question all the way through, mark some after you've guessed at it. If you have enough time, go back and you can look at those, change your answer only if you have a good reason to do so. If you left any blank, it does count against you. So answer all the questions. Now, they actually tell us how many questions we're going to get from each category. The trickiest thing about the LEED Green Associate exam is it's a coverall. It's a high level, higher altitude green building exam. Later, some of you might take the LEED AP BD plus C exam. You want to move on to that next tier exam. That's going to ask questions specifically from the LEED BD plus C rating system. What percentage do we have to hit to get this? Here, though, Green Associate, higher level, a lot more terms, definitions, where does this fit in? A lot of questions about the LEED process. Makes sense, right? If you're a LEED Green Associate, you might be newer to this process. You want to make sure you understand, how do we get a LEED project from start to finish? 16 questions, LEED process. Integrative strategies, 8 questions. Location and transportation, 7. Sustainable sites, 7. Water efficiency, 9. Energy and atmosphere, 10. Materials and resources, 9. Indoor environmental quality, 8. Project surroundings, public outreach, 11. We add all those up, the beta questions, it's a 100-question exam. You need about a plus or minus 85%, in my opinion, to pass this test. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't study for sustainable sites. No, of course not. You've got to do well in each of the categories. Just know that some are weighted a little more than others. There's just more questions about LEED process. One of the next tools I really want you to have access to is the LEED version 4 BD plus C new construction scorecard. So let's take a look at that together. If we go back to our website on the FAQ page and those free LEED Green Associate resources, we can scroll down, and my team here at GBES, we've made a shortcut for you. You can download the BD plus C checklist, also known as scorecard, and we can go ahead and open up that Excel file. Let's take a look. All right, this is a one-pager. I'm okay with you printing this one out, recycled paper, 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17, because I want you to use this as a roadmap with your studies, okay? Understand, where is everything grouped? What fits into sustainable sites? What fits into materials and resources? You don't need to memorize line by line the title and how many points. I do want you to know for the LEED Green Associate exam which credits are worth more points than others. LEED actually weights the points based on carbon emission reduction. There's a tool called the carbon overlay tool that gives more points to, say, energy performance. Look, we can get up to 18 points for optimizing our energy performance. The higher energy model, the more points we're going to get. Getting cars off the road, alternative transportation, more points there. So if you want your project to work towards gold or platinum, you have to really focus on carbon emission reduction. Now, we still get points for water efficiency and better materials and happier and healthier workplaces in the IEQ section, but I want you to know LEED projects are more weighted towards carbon emission reduction. There's 110 total points. And in a minute, we're going to go through certified silver, gold, or platinum. Use this 8.5 by 11 scorecard or checklist. Just the new construction tab. Let me warn you about that. Don't worry about studying corn and shell, schools, retail, data center. No. Just the first tab, one pager. How is everything grouped? Which items are prerequisites? You have to do those. Which items are credits? They're optional. They're worth 1 point, maybe 5 points, maybe up to 18 points on a sliding scale. Where's everything fitting in? What do I have to do? Where can I get the most points? Use this document as a roadmap. Okay? Here's another sample question. Just want to throw a couple of these in for you today on the webinar. One way to reduce a building's energy load is to do which of the following? Remember, on the practice test, on your real exam, read the question, read all of the answers. You can rule a couple out. On the real LEED exam, you can right-click to actually cross out any of the answers you don't think it is. It helps with that process of elimination. Do we increase the building, increase the size of the building? A. Site the building far away from adjacent buildings. Do we reduce a building's thermal mass? Do we configure the building to minimize solar gain in the summer and maximize it in the winter? One way to reduce a building's energy load is to do which of the following? Well, we don't want to increase the size of the building. It's going to use more energy, right? So it's not A. Site the building far away from adjacent buildings. Well, yeah, if we're next to a big building in the middle of Manhattan, the shading could cause us to need to change our HVAC design, this or that. There's just not enough information there. Reduce a building's thermal mass? Not really. We actually might want to increase the thermal mass and use the building materials to help with our energy performance. D's the best answer on this one. All right, so on your LEED Green Associate exam, most of your questions are going to come from, if I'm going to build a new LEED project, how do I design and build to those latest green building standards? So that's called LEED BD plus C, Building Design and Construction. You don't need to study each one of these different building types, but just know LEED version 4, you could do LEED for BD plus C for core and shell, data center, warehouse, healthcare. LEED's really tried to evolve a little bit to better accommodate, say, for these different building types. Interiors, mostly your office space, tenant upfits, but now we even have retail interiors, hospitality interiors. Existing buildings. This is a program I'm pretty passionate about. I love greening of existing commercial buildings, but now we can do existing schools, retail, hospitality, data center. I worked on a big data center project in New Jersey, and we earned LEED EB, Existing Buildings Gold. At the time, they didn't have LEED EB for data center. It was just LEED EB more for office. Now with LEED version 4, it's a little easier to accommodate for some of those data center items. Neighborhood development, split into two parts, plan versus the overall project, live, work, play development. One thing you need to know about neighborhood development might show up on your LEED Green Associate exam is the word walkability. Live, work, play, we really want the master planning with our LEED ND projects. Homes, a couple things you need to know about homes. Homes is for single family residential or multifamily that's 3 stories or lower. LEED for homes mid-rise is for those that are 4 to 8 stories. If you're over 8 stories, it's going to kick you back into the LEED for new construction side. There's 110 points on a LEED project. You have to meet all of the prerequisites. You don't get points for those. And then get 40 points to get certified, 50 points for silver, 60 points for gold, or a big jump, 80 or more points for platinum. Certified silver, gold, or platinum. 110 possible points, prerequisites you have to do, LEED credits you mix and match to find the right combination for your project. So you might get a question on your exam, what's the minimum we have to do to earn LEED certified? Well, you might jump to the answer that says 40 to 49 points. Yes, but don't forget you also have to meet all the prerequisites. Before you even register your project though, and some of this shows up on your LEED exam, that's why we're going over it today on the webinar, something called MPRs, Minimum Program Requirements, MPRs. You have to have a permanent location. You can't have a LEED boat. You have to have a reasonable site boundary. If there's a park next door you don't own and maintain, you can't draw your LEED boundary line and get points off of that. No gerrymandering of the LEED boundary line. And it needs to be at least a certain square footage. These are smaller, but just understand this is a requirement. New construction and existing buildings have to be at least 1,000 gross square feet. On all of our LEED projects, even though a lot of you work on the rentable square footage side, LEED and Energy Star, we work on the gross square footage, outside wall to outside wall. 1,000 gross square feet minimum for the entire building going for LEED, or an interior space 250 gross square feet. We need at least one person that's going to be in the building about 8 hours a day, at least one FTE in the building. So those are MPRs. You might get a question, which of the following are MPRs, minimum program requirements? Permanent location, reasonable site boundary, and a minimum square footage. If you can meet those, probably easily, then you can sign up, you can register to pursue LEED on your project. That's part of the LEED process. Remember, you're going to get 16 questions about the LEED process. Let's do a term recap. You're going to need to know a little bit about each one of these items to be successful on your LEED GA exam. I don't have time to go through all of them in our study session today, but this is going to be a good resource for you to understand. The certification fees at the bottom left here, you'll need to know those are based on the square footage of your project and whether or not you're a US GBC member company. You get a discount. That's just an example. Another example of the level of detail you need to get would be, what's the difference between a project team member, kind of read-only rights, or a project team manager edit rights on most of the LEED credits on leedonline.com. That's where we put all of our documentation to send it in at the end of the project to have the back and forth LEED review with those GBCI reviewers to get the official plaque, the official certification. On the integrative strategy, some of the key terms that you're probably going to need to know in a little more detail. Not a lot of detail. That's one of the tricky things here about the GA exam. You need to know a little bit about a lot of things. What stands out? Project vision. When should you lay out the project vision? As early as possible on your project. Make sure you go ahead and run a LEED scorecard or checklist during that early LEED charrette, that early brainstorming session. Which LEED items are we definitely going to do? Which ones are maybes? Which ones just are not applicable? So you do all that early. The earlier you decide to go for LEED, the less of an impact on your budget and schedule it'll be. Remember, when in doubt on taking the LEED exams, which items make LEED in this process and the USGBC look favorable? You want to be an advocate as a LEED professional. Okay, LEED's going to cost some money, but there's an ROI on it. The earlier you decide to go for LEED, the less of an impact. Hard and soft costs. The structural steel, the construction materials, the general contractor's contract, those are hard costs on a LEED project. Soft costs would be like the behind-the-scenes real estate and consultant fees. You always need to make sure you're meeting your local codes and zoning or LEED, whichever are more stringent. On the location and transportation category, a few of the items you just need to know a little more about. And I totally understand. Some of you may have worked on a couple LEED projects and you're a little familiar with these terms. Just go brush up on them. Use the glossary. Use some of the other materials I'm about to show you. Others that are brand new to this, just know this is the extent of what you're going to need to study. Okay, green score. What the heck is that? Well, every year, the ACEEE, the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy, comes out with a list of cars and their green score. If your car has a 45 or higher, now under LEED version 4, you're allowed to park in those preferred parking spaces on your LEED projects. Remember, you always put the handicap parking closest to the main entrance of the building. Then we'll put the charging stations or the fuel efficient vehicle, FEV. That's an example of an acronym you need to know. FEV, fuel efficient vehicle, preferred parking spaces, maybe the carpool spaces. Those are optional LEED points if we look at a LEED scorecard. But how do we work our way towards silver or gold or platinum? We've got to push the envelope and do some of those other optional LEED credits. 45 or higher. Lots of points for transportation. You do need to know a handful of numbers, not just terms and definitions and where does this fit in, but some numbers on the Green Associate exam, like how do we get all those transportation points? Well, let's try to locate our new project site a quarter mile to a bus line, to actually 2 bus stops, or a half a mile to a rail line. If we're not that close, we could provide a shuttle service. Let's avoid sensitive land. Let's not build within 50 feet of wetlands or 100 feet of a body of water. If we can do those items, we're getting extra points. LEED does incentivize us to build closer to city centers, closer to infrastructure that's already there. Now, can you build a LEED project in a suburban area or a rural area? Yeah, you can, but you're not going to get all these kind of urban LEED points. You're going to have to make up for those somewhere else, maybe with energy efficiency, maybe with solar, maybe with native adaptive plants. Just giving you a high level here under the sustainable sites category, some of the terms you need to become more familiar with. Vegetated roof, green roof shows up here, white roofs, solar reflectance index, SRI. What that means is we want to make sure we're putting a white roof on any flat roofing we have. Now, if we have like a sloped roof, we can get into a lighter color. Can we put our parking under cover? Heat island is what we're talking about. Where does heat island fit into LEED? Under sustainable sites. All right, water efficiency. You're going to need to know for the Green Associate exam that gray water comes from tubs, showers, restroom sinks, and even clothes washing machines. And it's represented with purple pipe on a building. Black water, though, is touched waste, human or food waste. So toilets, urinals, kitchen sinks, and dishwashers. You need to know that xeriscaping with an X means, hey, let's try not to even need irrigation with our landscape design. If we have to have irrigation, it needs to be very, very water efficient, but we focused on soils, we focused on drought-tolerant plants, we really focused on different types of landscape options. There are two prerequisites under water efficiency. You'll need to know now under LEED version 4 we have to save water outside 30% better with our irrigation systems, and inside in the restrooms, toilets, urinals, faucets, and shower heads by at least 20%. Now this is how LEED works. Sometimes there's a prerequisite that says be 20% more water efficient in your restrooms. You have to. But what if we're 30, 35, 40, 45% more water efficient? Well, that's when we get extra water points under the water efficiency category. Energy and atmosphere is the biggest category. This is where we get the most points on a LEED project. This is where you see the first ASHRAE standard, ASHRAE 90.1. Now under LEED version 4, it's the 2010 version. So if your local energy code is not updated to ASHRAE 90.1 2010, you would have to follow this more stringent energy code. We also talk under this category about commissioning and renewable energy and green power offsets. Big category, it's where the most points are available, but know that it's really anchored with ASHRAE 90.1. We have to be, prerequisite, more energy efficient than what we normally would have done, energy code, but the more energy efficient we are, the more LEED points we're going to get. And it's going to cost a lot less to run the building, and it's less impact on our resources. In this category, it's also called atmosphere. So you have to learn about refrigerants. And I realize a lot of you day-to-day might not have to deal with refrigerants in your cooling systems, your HVAC systems, your water fountains, but know a little bit about your refrigerants. We've banned the production of CFC refrigerants because the United States agreed to the Montreal Protocol back in 1995. You need to know that that's not allowed, no R11 or R12. Let's use the better refrigerants. They might not be as energy efficient, but they're less harmful on the environment. So go brush up on your refrigerants. When we talk about renewable energy, we could put solar panels or other renewable systems on our project. We get several points for that. Do you have to? No, they're optional LEED credits. But we can also buy green power offsets or even carbon offsets, but those have to come from a Green E certified, say, wind farm in Colorado. That's where we buy some wind from for some of our LEED projects. The materials and resources category has greatly changed from LEED version 3 to LEED version 4. I'm sure a lot of you that are architects and interior designers that are specifiers, you're getting a handle on this. Those of you that are contractors, you're like, look, it's not just recycled carpet anymore and low VOC paint. No, we've really seen the US GBES push harder on manufacturers. What are they doing to green up the supply chain? What are they doing to green up their facility? And so there's a need, a requirement now, if you want to earn these materials and resources points, not just recycled material and does it come from nearby so we can reduce trucking transportation, but EPDs, Environmental Product Declaration, HPDs, or cradle-to-cradle certifications. These are optional points under the MR, Materials and Resources category, but for your LEED Green Associate exam, you need to know just a little bit about each one of these terms and requirements. From LEED version 3 to LEED version 4, we also want to focus now on a closer radius, a 100-mile radius. We still want to buy FSC wood, Forest Stewardship Council certified wood. And we want to have source reduction. Can we get a similar result, but through a design technique, just need less material to start with? All those are going to be more eco-friendly on our projects. The final core category within LEED is IEQ, Indoor Environmental Quality. It's not just about air quality, even though it's very heavy there. In this category, we talk about daylighting and views, and now even acoustics. The last ASHRAE standards show up here. ASHRAE 55 for thermal comfort, ASHRAE 62.1 for ventilation, and ASHRAE 52.2 for selecting our filters, like our MERV 8 filters during construction and MERV 13 filters during occupancy. This is the feel-good section within LEED. We want to make sure people have connections to the outdoors, bring in more natural light, which will help save energy. Maybe we could put CO2 monitoring, demand control ventilation. That helps with air quality, productivity, but also helps save energy. That's another place you've got to just be more familiar with all this LEED material, because if you do this one, what else would it affect, good or bad? That's called synergies. There are several questions about synergies. So you can't just cram the night before and think you're going to do well on this test. You got to give yourself a little time to digest it. Where does it fit in? If I put CO2 monitors in my building to help regulate the outside air, what's it going to affect? Oh, it's going to save a lot of energy too. Yeah, that project might cost a little more up front. Let's not VE it out of the project. Instead, yeah, we want to do this. It's going to help with LEED. It's going to help with energy savings. There's a good synergy there. All right, let's start talking about some of the tools that you're going to want to get access to so you can go deeper on those terms and definitions and some of the high-level items I just mentioned. The Green Associate Candidate Handbook showed you where to download that. Again, it shows you where to sign up. It's going to talk about what kind of questions and how many questions from each of the categories. It's a 100-question multiple-choice exam. We here at Green Building Education Services want to help you prepare for it so you can ace it the first time. For those that use our study tools, we have a 95% first-time pass rate. So please, put in the time, use the material we're putting out there for you, and you're going to do great, and you're going to advance your career. So this is one of the key documents you need to get a hold of, the LEED Green Associate Candidate Handbook. That's number one. Number two is the BD+C New Construction Checklist or Scorecard. Again, you can download that from our FAQ site and use this as your roadmap. Here at GBES.com, we've been doing this a long time. We were actually first to come out with LEED practice tests way back in 2007. And we have not just practice tests, but other study tools like flashcards, study guides, more on-demand webinars, and even what we call our Platinum Pack. And so I want to talk to you about those right now. We have some amazing testimonials. We've helped over 100,000 people prepare for and pass the LEED exams. And it's just really been an awesome ride. We continue to help people, and we keep all these products updated. My entire team here, we're really passionate about helping you pass the LEED exams, the WELL exams, advancing your career, knowing what's going on with LEED version 4, knowing what's going on my next green building project. We have countless testimonials from professionals all over the world about just the high quality, the best-in-class products we have, the practice tests, and our other study tools. So we have great customer service too. If you have any questions, you can email us customercare@gbes.com. Let's talk a little more about the different ways that people learn. I'm logged into my account here. You know what? Some people learn best by just taking lots and lots of practice tests. We actually have an exam simulator. It's going to show you if you miss a question, why'd you miss it? I'm about to show you that. You can go through our 600 different LEED GA practice tests as many times as you want within a 120-day period. We're trying to push you. Go take the exam. Advance your career. We have some on-demand courses if you really want to get more detail and go through each of the sections, sites, water, energy, get all that information absorbed. We have searchable PDF LEED Green Associate Study Guide we wrote. If you forgot what is gray water, you know what? Let me hit Control F and let me search that document for, oh, here's a couple paragraphs about gray water. Some of you are on the go. You might want to use our flashcards. You can use them on your mobile phone, on a tablet, or you can print them out. You can use them online, our flashcards. We even have some 11 by 17 study sheets and cheat sheets. So we've got a lot of different products, very reasonably priced. We've been doing this a long time, and I want to show you the practice test first, and then we're going to bring it all together here. I want to make sure you have all the tools you need to pass the LEED Green Associate exam the first time. So let's take a look at our practice test. I'm logged into our LEED Green Associate practice test. We give you 600 different questions. You can take test pool A as many times as you want. It'll shuffle them up, but you can keep going through that one. That's fine. What I like to do, if I'm a little further along with my studies, I like to turn off scoring so I don't get frustrated if I miss a couple. And I like to get the answers right there if I miss it. After every incorrect answer, tell me why I miss it. Let's take test C, hit start the test. And we're going to go through a couple questions together. What does the emissivity of a material refer to? This is a question you might get on your real LEED Green Associate exam. Read the question, read all of the answers. You're going to have time. Keep a good pace. You have 2 hours. A lot of you that are around construction and design and LEED projects, you got some of this terminology. Others, you got to focus on the terminology first. Where does this fit in? And then you'll remember, oh, emissivity, we're talking about the heat island effect that fits into sustainable sites. Is it the ratio of energy radiated by a particular material, the environmental benefits of the material over time, how hot a surface gets, the measure of material's ability to reflect sunlight? That's tricky. No, that one's called albedo. Okay, I'm just going to pick C. Let's see what our system says. Our system says no. The correct answer in this case was A. And it goes ahead and tells us the specific definition there of emissivity. Let's do one more. What is the intent of the indoor environmental quality credits? That entire category. Are we using reused materials, promoting better indoor air quality and daylighting views? Are we decreasing the lighting power density? Are we reducing water use? So you can rule these out, right? Water efficiency, no. Power, no, that's under energy. Materials, well, we talk about low chemical materials for air quality, but no. Correct answer here, let's hit B. We hit next. Our system moves us on. At any time, you can hit exit the test. Yeah, actually, I want to go ahead and exit the test. It'll save where you left off, and you can actually go and get a report card feature on our system. That report card feature, you can go back and look at the questions you missed. You can go back and see how you're doing in water efficiency or energy. We actually have this exam simulator software that really helps you study, helps pace your studies. So the practice tests are fantastic, but to score higher on the practice test and to go ace the real LEED Green Associate exam, you're going to need some other study tools. So we've got flashcards and study guides and all that, but I want to tell you about our Platinum Pack. That's the one here at the bottom, LEED Green Associate Platinum Pack. What happens is you're going to get all these tools in one place so you can study a little bit from each one of them and really understand LEED version 4 and really do well on the LEED GA exam, again, on your first try. This is our most popular comprehensive study package. $199, great value. You're going to get the practice tests, the searchable PDF study guide, the 9-hour on-demand webinar, and even the flashcards that, again, you can print out on your own, recycle paper, double-sided, cut them out, take 10 a day, learn that vocabulary, or you can use those online, and just great study tools here. We have a money-back guarantee. We're very proud of helping people pass the LEED exams. Hopefully you can tell just from our website and our testimonials and again our track record. Our material is made by subject matter experts like myself and my team that actually works on LEED projects, takes the LEED exams, and then we help you. Here's what you need to know about LEED V4. Here's what you need to know to pass your LEED exam. Advance your career, help your company win that next bid, help meet that mandate within your firm, or just help satisfy that curiosity about eco-friendly buildings. So, highly recommend our LEED Green Associate Platinum Pack. Everything is instant access. As soon as you check out on GBES.com, you add that product to your cart, you check out, you're going to be able to get instant access. And for being on our webinar today, we want to say thanks. We wanted to give you access to my expertise, my team's expertise, some free tips, some free tools I've pointed out, but we also want to let you know that we have helped a tremendous amount of green building professionals out there pass the exams with our proven study tools. Whether you want the practice test or you want to get the Platinum Pack, make sure you go to gbes.com and go ahead and do that. We want to extend an offer since you've been on our webinar today. If you use the coupon code GBES Platinum altogether, you're going to get 10% off. And so that brings that price even further down. It's a great value. You're probably going to be able to get reimbursed by your company on this. It can be an expense, a tax write-off for them, because it's education. It's continuing education. It's helping you advance your career. Again, GBES Platinum, that's the coupon code. You'll apply it in your cart, and you'll see the final total and the discount when you actually go to checkout. So I want to just give you a few final tips and just a thank you and some words of encouragement. Number one, hopefully you're excited about LEED and this movement. LEED is going strong. The LEED Green Associate exam, it's a great place to start. Actually, you have to start there with your LEED credentials. Some of you might move on later and want to take another LEED exam, which would be awesome. To pass the 100-question LEED Green Associate exam, you do need to put in some study time. This exam is not impossible. It's just a little tricky because you got to learn a lot about the LEED process, a lot of these green building features, know a little bit about a lot of things. Use our study tools. I've pointed out again some free tools, some free tips. You're going to get access to this webinar, and make sure though you supplement with some other GBES study materials. This is what we do for a living. We love to make best-in-class products that help you understand LEED and pass the exams. I highly recommend the LEED Green Associate Platinum Pack. It's one of our best sellers. And again, use this coupon code. Go ahead and buy now, and you can use this material over time. If you get stuck, email me, charlie@gbes.com. We can get you on our forum, which is on our Facebook group. You can also email customercare@gbes.com if you have any further questions. So, hey, good luck on your exam. Put in the study time. You're going to do well. And good luck on your next LEED project. Thanks, everyone.